Yeah, so my name is Joshua, and yeah, I will be presenting about something I have been involved with, which is the Power BI reports story of how we integrate with Business Central. And yeah, so, okay. It says mastering, but maybe I'm not that much of a master, right? It's like mainly like the work of a lot of very nice, like great colleagues. So it's all the kudos goes to them, right? But still, I hope that what I'm gonna tell you it's somehow useful. And well, I wanted to start a bit like, yeah, we usually in the technical side tend to go straight to the technical thing, right? So I wanted to motivate a bit and to think a bit of why would you like to start using Power BI if you already are an experienced partner and already like know how a lot of other reporting solutions you have. Why should you be interested in using it? So I'll go a bit general, but bear with me. It's kind of stating the obvious, but just to set the stage, right? So at the primary thing, we have businesses. So businesses are like what an ERP is trying to help solve all their scenarios, and they have business processes. So there is the first point where ERPs can hold some value, right? So we have, for example, people that sell something or that buy something or that receive something in a warehouse. So encoding already all these processes in real life into their ERP will already provide some things like, okay, make sure to not forget what you're asking for, or make sure to just like send an email after this is done, right? So this is the first part where a value of an ERP comes. But out of all of that, a lot of business data gets generated. So you name it, you know it, right? In Business Central, we have all sort of ledgers. So we have a customer ledger entries and bank ledger entries, and yeah, you name it, there's probably a ledger. And with these, this is the part that I think that is like, okay, the juicy part that we can do something about it, right? Like a lot of value from an ERP comes from this, right? The fact that we can do custom presentations of data. And that is what I will be understanding as analytics and reporting in this context. So what options do we have in Business Central? So, okay, so historically, right, we have a lot of things. We have AEL functionality, for example. I don't know if you have seen, of course you've seen financial reports, right? Is a built-in AEL tool where you can like define like your own rows and say like this rows has certain formula, this is how I calculate it and so on. And also for the columns, and this is inside the product. But there are also RDLC layouts, right? If you define your own AEL extension and you want to define exactly how you want to print something, then you can use an RDLC layout and be very precise on how things should look. You have also Excel layouts and Word layouts, right? And okay, given that we have so many options, then why should you consider Power BI? So it pretty much depends on the use case, right? If you really are interested in printing something, then probably RDLC is the way to go. But of course, if you, for example, want to download something and do something with it, like the data, and the person that is going to do something with it is not experienced in business intelligence tools and so on, then maybe an Excel file is the right choice. But Power BI enables us with a lot of good scenarios that I think it's very relevant that all of us start learning. And yeah, okay, so concretely what I think that is the value of using Power BI is that it's very easy to create powerful and interactive reports that integrate with a lot of the Microsoft ecosystem. So you have a bunch of ways of sourcing data into it, right? So, and it's also like a very good tool if you're like, if the companies that you work with are serious with business analytics, then probably these people will know Power BI, right? So, yeah. Good. So, okay, well, just to make my point concrete, right? Like, what do I mean by powerful interactive reports? So this is an example. So this is an example of the finance thing that we are offering, out of the box report that we are offering. And here we can say, see, for example, the net profit of this Contoso Demo Data company. And
it's not on the screen.
Can I? Okay, so I don't know how to show. Can someone help me? Yeah. Or do I have to stop the presentation maybe and then? Okay, he's coming. I want to share like what I'm seeing on my screen, and this the power, the like switch off from the presentation. Okay, super.
Like this, just go.
Yeah. Cool. So, well, this is concretely what I mean by a interactive report, right? So you have the net profit of this company, right? And the net profit margin, you can see how it was calculated. You can see the revenue, the cost of goods sold, and the expenses. And you can see by month, right? So, and by fiscal year. So if you select one of these, you will see that these values change by me selecting them. So that's the kind of things that Power BI makes rather simple to do. Or if you select this one, then you'll see that these are the months involved in this fiscal year, right? And not only that, right? For example, if I go to the liabilities one, then I can see like month by month, and I can drill down if I am like skeptic of some of this. I can see, okay, what entries were involved here? And of course, if you still want to do something with them, to like a fast analysis, then you can download this data into Excel. But this is this is a very good way to explore data and to do it in an interactive way, right? Good. So then, how do I do this now? Where is this? Hide presenter view? That works, okay. So that was my sales pitch of why you should start trying to use Power BI or learn about it. And now I'll start with the goal of today. So my goal of today is to provide you with a way of like, okay, this is my deck of slides. I will have a bunch of links there so that you can like explore all around. And if you want to like go more deep into a topic, you can just dive into it. Does anyone know what this map is? No, it's the Lord of the Rings, right? Yeah. So okay, so yeah, Power BI is like in Rivendell, like with the elves. And, Business Central is in Mordor, but maybe it's a coincidence of where I put the. Yeah. Okay. So I'll just start, right? So first part, like how do we extract data from Business Central into Power BI? And this is a very general thing, like we do it less in any other API integration. And there are two essential ways in which we do this. First one is through explicit REST APIs, that's API pages. And there's another one that it's no-code OData endpoints. So I'll start first with the explicit REST APIs. You are probably familiar with this, right? In AL extensions, you can define your own page or query objects of type API. Then you publish your extension, and this will be possible to be consumed as an API. Through HTTP. And then we, as Microsoft, provide a set of default ones that you can use. But you can also, if you have your own custom tables or you have extra data that you want to show, you can provide your custom ones. So the built-in APIs that we provide. So they are always there, right? In any Business Central environment that you have, they will be available for you to call. So you can rely on them. And we maintain the fact that they will always be there, right? There are V1s and V2s, use V2s. V1s are deprecated. And here is a link where you can see all the things that we are providing, right? So it's a nice list, and you can say, okay, how do I query GL accounts or accounting periods and all these things? Okay. And besides the standard, that is the one that I'm linking here, there are many others that are published as in different first-party apps that you can explore. So there's recently been added some subscription billing and some on sustainability. And also, well, the ones that we are using for Power BI reports, which is the analytics ones, which, yeah. And okay, so how do we call these APIs? This is an example. You are probably familiar on how to query it. So you have an environment, and this is the name of your environment, right? And then this is how you query this is the group of these APIs, v2. And then you say companies, and you put the system ID of the company in the URL, and then you say accounts. So you're referring to the GL accounts inside the company. Good. And then you would get a JSON. Good. So custom APIs. So that's the ones that we provide. They are always there. You can use them if you find them useful. But okay, so you can also do your own. So this is an example, right? So you have an API page that is like, you can have an AL page, and you can define certain properties as page type, and then API group, API publisher, API version is the properties that you need to set. So in this case, it was group TEDStar Analytics. The publisher is the Galactic Empire, and the version is version 1.0. And then here you can surface whatever you want. So these are a bit, and this is how you would query it, right? Good. So that's the explicit REST API pages. If you have your own AL extensions, you can publish your own. And now, what about these no-code OData endpoints? So if I were to say, like, this is the way you should do it, I wouldn't talk about this, but just to give you a full overview, and because there's something with Power BI there that you should be aware of, I will talk a bit about the no-code OData endpoints. So this is a way that we have in Business Central to, in a very generic way, just expose data that it's in any page query or code unit. So it doesn't matter if it's meant to be consumed as an API or not. You can just make it available. This is through the web services page. But we shouldn't, like, okay, we provide some out of the box when we run demo tool. But we should be aware that the names that these ones have are considered demo data, right? So maybe this is a bit too small. I can zoom. So these are if you go to a new company and you search for web services, you will see this list, and you will see some that are Power BI related. And this was something that we used for some of the first Power BI reports that we had. But if you find them useful, by all means, you can use them. But be aware that these names, you shouldn't rely on them, and that also performance-wise, it's not guaranteed, right? They have a bunch of things. If you just expose a page and there's suddenly a GUI, something that requires GUI, like a message or something, or a confirm dialog, then it will just crash in an API client. So be aware of it. Okay, so those are the two main ways. And now let's talk about actually Power BI, right? Because this is generic APIs. So inside Power BI, you can find the Business Central connector. As any other connector, you can go to Get Data, find the connector, and find the environment that is of interest according to the user with which you logged in the tenant where you logged in. And then you can find the API and, essentially get the data as any other source. So if you explore what code gets generated when you do that, and you see in the Power Query editor, you will see this function, Dynamics 365 Business Central API with content options. And this is more or less how you use it. Well, I didn't mention it, but the other three are deprecated. You should be using this one. Yeah, so the first parameter is environment name, then the company name, then the API prefix, and then a set of options. There is some metadata that you can use to customize how this query is actually done to the Business Central service. So this, for example, is used specifying to use the read-only replica. You may be familiar with this concept. It's we maintain two databases. One in which the actual user is interacting with and modifying, and one is a read-only replica, and it's just a copy of it. And the point is that it doesn't take any locks or any, and it's independent of the other one. If it's important for you, the encoding of what is being returned, the timeout of how long will I be waiting for this request to complete, and the paging, right? Because this connector will do paging over all the records, and yeah. So once you have that as a source, then you can further filter down on the table of your interest. And if you have a custom route, you can also specify it, like in the previous example. This is how you would specify the custom API prefix. And also worth mentioning, these arguments can be null. They take the default values. Good. Now, so there's also another part of the story, which is how do you visualize these reports? Once you have published a Power BI report, you can go to app.powerbi.com and you see your workspaces and see all of it. And that's where you would see them. But there's also the possibility of seeing them inside Business Central. So we have allowed for a lot of pages to surface Power BI reports. There are many ways in which this can happen. This is the full page, but they can also be in a fact box, or they can be like in a customer card, and they can take the context of the record. I won't go that deeply on it, but here I'm providing a link in which there is examples of how this is done. Here Enrico has provided very nice basic ways of how to use this, and this is also something that we want to further improve. And okay. So those are the tools that we have to integrate with Business Central and Power BI. So the out-of-the-box reports. So this is using those tools to provide some default experience that you can already use and maybe benefit from. So these are the areas that we are covering. It's finance, sales, purchasing, inventory valuation, projects, manufacturing, subscription, billing, and sustainability. There is some links so that you can see what they contain. This is about like explicitly what each report means and what the measures do they provide. And if you want to install them, you can find them in this link. So we'll go together through the installation in a bit. So okay. So these out-of-the-box reports, they have two main components. One is the AL application that supports the reports, that's exposing all the API parts and so on that we have been talking about. And the other part is the Power BI side, which is the Power BI template apps. About the AL application, so this is very roughly the architecture of it. So this is the Power BI AL app on top of all of our other apps, for example, Base App. It is exposing the Microsoft Analytics v0.5 and API prefix that is consumed by the template apps. And in order to know what to return, it uses information from the entities. It uses setup that we can configure. For example, the amount of data that we want to restrict. If you have too much data, you may want to limit on dates. We also have this concept of dimension flattening right now. So if you know dimension set entries, you will know that it's a table that has a bunch of entries and many of them like refer to the same. So what it's currently done is that it's being flattened inside Business Central, and then you can just query that without, and the relationships would work a bit nicer. And it's also saving some processing time. There's some talks. We maybe want to move this flattening into the PBIX side, but yeah, it's still being decided. And the other part of the application is these AL pages that have all these embedded things. So already in Business Central, you can just open them and see them. Okay. And the template apps. So something important that the template app cannot be directly like modified, and that is maybe not the best if you want to customize it for your own company or your own business. So that is the reason of also open sourcing these PBIX files. So you can also just download them and see exactly what each measure is, how it's calculated, and how the queries work. And yeah, in this link, you can find the first three. It's the inventory valuation, and finance. But it is planned that they will live inside the AL app that they contain to avoid problems with version dependency. But this is still something that we are planning on how to properly open source it and welcome contributions as well. So the main components of the template apps are the semantic model for the problem domain that we are solving, the measures for the common KPIs and metrics of the domain, and some theme for it. So just to show it very quickly, this is an example, right? This is the semantic model. If you know Power BI, this is how we model things, and this is how it figures out what things to highlight and so on. And there is the list of these measures that you can also see how they are calculated, right? Good. So they are there. You can download them, and if they don't work or you want, yeah. So okay, enough talking. Let's just try to set up a new company. So good. So here I have a company. I have two companies actually. So well, there's of course the demo ones, but I also have two other companies. A health company and the laboratory company. Okay, so I think here I already have the Power BI report set, so I can see them, but I don't yet have them here, right? So let's go through the installation. So first I'll go to Power BI connector setup, and this is because this is the easiest way for me to find, at least currently, the link to where the Power BI apps live. So these are the apps that need to be installed in the Power BI side. So if you scroll down here, you will find that for this version, for 26.2 version, you can install it here and so on. So let's go and install the inventory one. Okay, and I had already installed the inventory one for the other company, right? So this is a different company that wants to use it. So I can override it if I want, but no, I want to install in another copy into a new workspace. So I will just install it into a new workspace, and I will call this inventory for clinic. So now it's installing the app. And while this is done, let me, yeah, okay, maybe we can wait a bit. I don't think it will take that long. Yeah, okay, so this is the new one. And you open it, and currently this is not linked to the Business Central instance that we have defined. So in order to connect your data, you can fill in the parameters. And so it will warn you here, right? Like it will say, you're viewing this app with sample data, connect your data. Okay, so how do you do that? In the Power BI connector setup, you have the connection details. You put the company name. You put the environment name. Be aware that you have to set the privacy level for this to whatever makes sense for the data that you are sourcing. And then it will start refreshing, right? So while this is happening, we can go to the workspaces. Yeah. Because this is like, if you face problems, if there's errors, this is like where you would find them. So if you go to the workspaces, you can see the report, you can see the semantic model. And this is the one that we can set properties. So by default, it will schedule once a day, but you can reschedule or set your own schedule. So if you click the three dots next to the semantic model, you have a lot of things. So for example, the refresh history. So this is the one that is being done, that it's actually now already finished. And if you need to open a support request or something like this, then you can see it here. The kind of information that might be useful to understand what's going wrong. Yeah. So with that, then we should have yeah, the company name is set to the company that we just connected to, and this is all information that was retrieved from API pages from Business Central here. And now, in order to see them inside Business Central, so in order to see them inside Business Central, we can go here to Power BI reports and say, okay, inventory location. So at this point, we haven't set up properly the reports here in this company, so it will just guide me through the wizard. It will ask me to check the Power BI license. You need a Power BI Pro license in order to schedule the refresh and see the reports. So this is the part that sets up the connection, and then it's the part that sets up the specific reports, out-of-the-box reports. So you can set several things that influence, for example, how the date table gets generated in Power BI. Yeah, the date table range that you should be considered, and stuff like this. So here is where we link back, right? So this is where we link back the reports that we just installed into Business Central. So this is how Business Central will know which thing to show from your workspace. So in inventory report, you can just say, let's see, and these are all the workspaces that I have there. So this was the clinic. It's the first one. Yeah, okay. And then inside you can see the report, and that is enough for now. Ideally, if you install all of them, you can just configure them there, and that's it. And then it will open the page, and it will load the page for that company. Right? So this is for this company that we added. Okay, and if you don't, of course, wizard will just go the first time, but then you can go to Power BI connector setup, and these settings are still here. Here's where you can set them up. And other things, right? Like I was telling you about this setup, like the Power BI account categories. So you will see some metrics like how does it know which account is mapped to assets and so on. So this is where you can define these things. And yeah, and if you want to limit the amount of entries, be aware that like it is rather solid, but it can still time out, like itself, the Power BI service. So we recommend at least a lower volume to do the initial population of data. So that's that. And just because it's also something that, because, okay, so you can have reports like this, but you can also have, well, I showed you that you could have for two different companies, the out-of-the-box reports, but you can also have multi-company reports, and that means embedding information from two companies inside a single Power BI report. Oops. So this is a small example, and I have also uploaded this one in BC TechDays repo, just to prove the point, right? For these two companies that I set up, I can select the BC companies, and based on what I select, I have different set of customers in each of them, and this is a different revenue. So how did I do this? So we can maybe, yeah, I won't go that thoroughly into how this works, but I think it's like in the M code, I mean. Yeah, let me wait a bit. Yeah, so here is where I define the companies that I want to consider from my environment, my AD tenant. So you can edit which companies by doing this. And then you would add more if you have more. And then how do you do the cross-company data? So for example, the customers. So if all the customers are different for each of the companies, then you can just, so if you see this table has information for both companies. So you can see the company name, customer number for this company, but there's also a customer number 10,000 for this other company, right? So they are all merged there. So if you want to see how that is done, you can go here to the advanced editor, and this is like an example that I have, example M code for doing this. So what I would recommend, of course, you can do it manually by going. It would work just fine if you just select each of them and just select the company and see it, and then you would do table.combine or something like this. But you can also use copy this thing, these helper functions that I've done, and then the way that you would use it is like this. So you would say expand the table, and you will say which are the companies table that you have as your source. And then you will just say, how do you get that table, which is this table in company, this is the prefix, and this is the table that I'm looking at. And by doing that, and if you have these things above, then it will do what I just showed you, that it just merges there, and goes through each of the companies and merges all that data. Yeah, so those are the things I wanted to show you. There are many areas of opportunity here. I don't consider this work to be done, and we are constantly evolving it. So you saw that this set of experience was a bit like I'll do a bit here, then I'll go a bit here, and then I'll go back a bit here. So we want this to be much more smooth. We're currently seeing how to auto-install, right, and stuff like this. And also a better troubleshooting experience. Right now there are many pitfalls that if you don't know, it's a bit hard to figure it out. And there is more content planned as well. And also, in general, a better developer experience. Right now we have pieces of code here and there of the AL code, so we could certainly improve it and certainly make it easier for you to extend. And if you have any ideas, just let me know. And if you recognize me and you have something, just tell me. We can make it work. I'm not as brave as Haran as to put my email on the slides, but I can happily give it to you. I'll just ask me, and of course. So frequent asked questions. Before we jumped into the general questions, I gave you the multi-company example. That is one. The licenses that you need, you do need Power BI Pro for this. And on-premises are not supported by default, but since we're giving the PBIX, then you can explore with that, right? You can use the connector, because we do have a connector for on-prem, so you can use that connector and reuse the semantic model and the measures and try to see. But by default, we are not supporting it. So, yeah. Okay. Why? Damn it. Okay.
See, okay.
Yeah.
You say that we need the Power BI Pro license, but for using it?
Yes, as far as I understand.
No, I'm managing it to create this thing, but if I'm a simple user, do I need a Power BI license to see the report inside Business Central?
Yeah, so we can try it out a bit. I can verify it. As far as we have it in our documentation, we do say that we need it in order to consume them. But yeah, I can check it in a bit.
So if I'm a Business Central user without Power BI license, I cannot see the report?
Yeah.
Okay, just that.
Oh, that's a long throw. No.
Okay, I'll start. You mentioned a replica database for getting information. Is that runtime information, or is it daily backup?
I actually don't know the details of how this read-only replica, but I know who to ask, so I can get back to you with it. I don't know how often it happens, to be honest. No.
Okay, thank you. Same thing.
Just a quick question. Did you have a chance to check the performance? So what, for example, if you take the GL ledger table and it has 10 million records and you pull it via API,
yes.
What's the...
So that's a big limitation. We do have a lot of customer cases that we are trying to, they basically, it times out, right? So because it's in the end doing a lot of HTTP requests, and even if they are paginated by 10,000, it will eventually time out by the Power BI service that is calling it itself. So to mitigate that, we can we have the actually, I can show it. I think I showed it. We have a way to limit the entries, and at least for the initial import, we could like limit it, and then we can go from certain date onwards. But yeah, I do admit there's something we can do to improve in the data volume. Yeah.
And you have shown us the multi-company support, but for example, if you have the same customers in two companies, you can merge that and show the revenue from both companies for this exact customer.
Yeah.
Yes?
No. I mean, what I showed you was also like an example because we get the question often. But the things that you mentioned is exactly why we cannot provide something out of the box, right? Because some customers may have this different names, but it's actually the same in different companies. And this consolidation process is not something that we can like adventure to say this is how we should be doing it, right? So it's very much like case dependent. So it would be up to like the person that is trying to define these reports to know how to handle this. So I could think, for example, of having a set of matched customers, right? And then try to build queries that like use that information in order to do that. But yeah, this was just the example. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, it's a bit crazy throw, but.
Okay. Maybe you will throw better than me.
It respects the permissions. Yeah. Okay. The question, of course, you didn't all hear. It's about permissions and whether it will respect the user permissions, and it respects. So. Yeah. So the user that schedules the refresh, it will respect the permissions of the user that schedules that refresh.
So, so if admin access has access to all companies, the user that is accessing the data will have the same access as admin.
Yes, but additionally, right, we also provide permission sets. So in Business Central, if you want to just limit what they see inside Business Central, then you have the regular permission sets for the pages. And then you can limit there, for this company, you can only see these pages. But of course, nothing stops them from going to app.powerbi.com, right? But yeah, it is something that you should, limit, like from the BC side, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
So that's it, I think. Okay, thank you.